Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker, it's good to see you. Listen,
You're a Bitcoin maximalist. You're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.
Hey, I don't have all the answers, but together, I know we can find them.
Down in competition and the ratings grab for late night weekend viewers.
hey everybody, welcome to Rob Nelson Live. Happy Wednesday, wherever you are. 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm in the West Coast, so 5 p.m. here. I'm losing track of time zones. I got to tell you, I don't know how people keep up with it. so much goes on. I was thinking about if you're like the president, how you keep up with all the different places you are. You just have people keeping schedule for you. Thought it was funny that Trump today, yesterday, whatever, in that press giggle on Air Force One, one of his staffers comes out for the bathroom and opens the door into him as he's talking. And classic Trump, he's just like, "Oh, someone in there, come on out." And the person literally like slams the door shut, like, and hides in there, petrified. They should have come out. He could have had a great cameo and been like, "Hi, everybody, welcome. I'm so and so." Maybe you get fired, but it'd be worth it. We viral for a minute, right? It's all about being viral for a minute. Isn't that what everybody wants? Their 15 minutes? I don't know anymore. I've had my 15 minutes plus. I'm not sure if I want 15 minutes more or not. Um, David Goxstein's supposedly going to join me today, but we'll see if he does. We tried to do it Monday and it got all screwed up because I had to stream earlier. Well, I had to record it a little early. So we'll see if he makes it today, and we'll talk of Bitcoin, and I'll get to that. I'll get to interest rates and Bitcoin. I'm going to wait in case he makes it on in 10 minutes. Vid Goxstein, if you're out there, come join Rob Nelson live for 15 minutes. I want to talk about a couple other things first. Just a whole fascinating by the play that's going on in the media, in politics, in everything. I mean, look, I don't want to do a deep dive into politics right now. Republicans are probably at risk of losing their majority in the House, and what I talked about before, the fractionalization is happening, right? You hear the Nancy Maces, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, kind of pushing one way, and the mainstream and Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, kind of pushing another way. And I've said that fracture is going to happen in both parties. The Democratic Party, it's obvious that it's happening. But because more and more, Nancy Mace said the other day, I don't remember where it was on Face the Nation or whatever it was, on some mainstream news outlet, not Fox, and said, and by the way, the media loves it when they can get a Republican to like say something bad about Republicans, and they relish it, which is so sad because it shouldn't be. I mean, we have such partisan media. It shouldn't be really that you're just like out to get the Republic. You're not supposed to be the Democratic Party. You can say that for Fox News too, but Fox is kind of alone in the mainstream department on the more conservative side, and they do have, they have the Brett Bears who, two really objective interviews. They bring, Martha McCullum. They bring multiple voices on for real. I swear to God, CNN, ABC, NBC, the CBS News, the ABC News, their mainstream, NBC. It's really like it's all just about finding an opportunity to throw Trump and Republicans under the bus. And if they can get a moment to say, see, look, gotcha, that they're after. And it's like, we're just doing our reporting. It's like you're just doing your job, selectively picking the things you want to do the gotchas on, and thrilled that you did it and claim you're journalists. And it's why the media has lost all credibility, which is so sad because it probably can't get it back at this point. There's probably no regaining it. It's a new era of a new kind of media that will emerge. And traditional legacy news media will slowly wither up. I mean, we'll see what happens with with Warner Brothers, Paramount, this whole, thing, the acquisition battle, merger acquisition, and where CNN ends up in that. But they're they're losing money and they've lost all credibility. And I don't think you can rebuild it. I almost don't know if it's even worth trying. If somebody else takes over CNN, I'm not sure it's worth saying we're going to be, they tried it with CBS, put Barry Weiss in. I don't, it's just almost like why? I was like, why Barry Weiss? Why would you go back? Why would you go back to mainstream and try to fix it? Like it's broken. It's an outdated model. It's lost all trust. People have zero faith. And proof of that is even like, the New York Times lately seems to be on a string of confessing, admitting things 5 years after the fact that were so obviously true. It's almost like what are you trying to cover your ass and because you didn't say things before, like so you're now saying them. The whole immigration thing, right? That Biden supposedly was given a memo at the beginning of his term that just how disastrous immigration would be if it was allowed to grow and be unchecked. What a train wreck it could be. And he chose to ignore it. That's the news story, you know. First of all, the New York denied it was even a problem. They all denied it. And, you know, they're thing now as well. We gets to see everything. What couldn't they see the week that I couldn't see? Couldn't they see that I could see that you could see? All I had to do was like open your eyes. All I had to do was watch a single news clip. It wasn't fake news. I mean, all I had to do was watch footage of people pouring over the border in lines, droves, 200 miles away from the border, people in caravans, like, you know, but to realize you had a problem. We were bringing in, why am I blurry again? Well, I'm blurring out. It's like, woo, 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 am I on an acid trip? Let's fix this. It's like, you know, at one point it was 300,000 people a month. I mean, and the New York Times just figuring it out now was a big, big problem. And in fact, Biden was warned about it, and Biden chose to ignore it. That's the take. Biden chose to ignore it. I'll tell you, poor Joe, he's getting tossed under the bus for everything. Remember good old days for you, Joe Biden. You hope you have memory loss. Remember when, Joe, they were saying how you're going to be on Mount Rushmore, one of the greatest presidencies ever. They just blew so much smoke up your butt, it came popping right out of your ears. And, you know, he was never going to be on Mount Rushmore. Joe Biden, you were never going to be anything. You were never much of a president. In your failed candidacy since the 70s, you only won because you could hide in a basement with COVID. And they ran on anyone but Trump. I swear to God, you could have been dead. You could have been a scarecrow. You could have been a stick. A whole lot of people would have voted for you because they didn't want Trump to win a second term. That didn't work out so well. He won a second term, a term later, and came back far stronger than he would have been had he just won a successive second term. But that said, suddenly Joe Biden knew and just chose not to do anything about it. Let's be honest. It's taken me a long time to come to this realization. The reason why they flooded the borders, and I didn't want to admit it. I wanted to think it was not as deliberate. I didn't think it was totally humanitarian, but I really think it was. I think the Democratic Party realized their only shot at shifting and maintaining a majority was to shift the balance of who was in the country. Like, if you bring in enough people who will vote for your party and you can actually seed them all around, you can shift the political landscape across the country. And that's what I think they were doing. I didn't for a long time buy into it, but then I looked and I thought, what else would make sense? You're flooding people in, vetting them, non-vetting, just clearing them right in, giving them resources, letting them establish themselves, making sure they, you know, spread out and get locked down. Who are they going to vote for? The party that let them in. And that would shift the votes. I can't think of another good reason why. And now you would do it. And now 5 years later, you know, the New York Times suddenly waking up going, well, we've discovered that Joe Biden was warned that this could lead to very bad outcome. Huh. You think? You think? I mean, duh. And yet, you know, no one admits it. I mean, everyone admits things sort of after the fact, right? It's like the mea culpa thing. And that doesn't give journalism or newspapers like the New York Times any more credibility just because they 5 years later admit, you know, who knows what they'll admit next month. It took them forever to admit the COVID leak lab theory. I mean, that was like such an obvious one. Everyone denied it. They even like banned you on social media if you said it, censored you, whatever. That it came from a lab, and then it was racist and this. And wow. Where did COVID come from? Huh. Let's give options. Well, there's a fish market. Okay. There's, I don't know, maybe a bat cave somewhere. I don't know. You can think of 20 places. I don't even know. The fish market was the one, right? Where didn't it come from? Well, it certainly couldn't have come from the only lab in the world doing that kind of research in the city where the virus started. No. The lab doing work on that in that city? That wouldn't make sense. I mean, it's like literally, it's the most obvious possible thing you could think of, right? Right? State of function research, form of function research being done in the Wuhan lab, and a COVID virus leaks out, or is intentionally, but one way or the other, is the most obvious place it could come from. And Anthony Fauci and the Biden administration shut that thing down like there was no tomorrow. And the New York Times and all the mainstream outlets said the same thing. Did they even bother to ask the obvious? Well, guys, why are you shutting it down? Mr. President, excuse me, isn't that the Mr. Fauci, excuse me, isn't that the most likely place it would come from? No one asked that because they just said no. See, it didn't come from there. So now they finally admit, oh, it probably did. Whatever, like I said a couple months ago. Oh, really? Wow, good for you. You're catching up. It's not, it doesn't work that way. You don't get to like jump on the bandwagon later and say, sorry, we never reported any of the true stuff, but we're going to report it now that we know now it's true stuff. You've lost your credibility. The American public no longer believes much of anything that the media reports to them, nor do they believe much of anything the political parties tell them. Going back to the Nancy Mace thing, the friction you're seeing, because she blames the Republicans. She's like, we have control of both houses in the White House, both houses of the legislature, the Senate and the House of Representatives. And if we don't get healthcare taken care of, if we don't deal with the costs of living and pricing and affordability, those core economic issues, and of course, safety and immigration, we will get booted out in the midterms. And, you know, President Trump is taking a very much everything he's doing a Biden. Everything's fine. I've said this before. He's doing prices are fine. They're lying to you. He even said affordability is the new hoax from the media. Affordability is not a hoax, Mr. President. It's not a hoax. It wasn't a hoax when you were running against Joe Biden and then Kamala Harris. And they said it was a hoax. Prices are great. No, some prices are good. Some prices are down. Yes, Joe Biden caused massive inflation. That's true. That's not an excuse for not dealing with it more aggressively now, any more than it was an excuse when he tried to blame it on you on your first term. The blame game doesn't work. When you're the president, you can't just blame, and Obama did it. You can't just blame the last administration and say it's their fault. Well, maybe, but now it's your job. You're in charge now. You get to fix it. That's the deal, right? When I did Lead or Leave 25 years ago, it was our whole premise of the Lead or Leave pledge was, take the pledge to cut the deficit in half or quit. Don't say, but, I voted for it and it didn't happen because others didn't. Then let somebody else come in who thinks they can get the job done and get everybody on board. Everybody likes to pass responsibility, but I didn't do it. If you're the president, you're responsible now, and that means lowering prices. Nancy Mace is not wrong. If Republicans in the White House don't figure out how to really truly deal with care and the cost of health care and health insurance and more affordability issues, it doesn't matter how many peace deals you make. It doesn't matter, even to some extent, how many people you deport. You're going to lose the midterms big. And then it's 2 years and nothing gets done. And then, they impeach Trump a couple more times. It's a joke at that point. If they impeach him one more time, don't impeach him anymore. Every time you impeach him, it just comes back stronger. So, I mean, almost like he might want it. But I'm saying if you hate Donald Trump, don't waste our time impeaching him because it's just going to backfire on you. So, just stop. Stop while you're not even farther behind. Okay, it is 8:15, and I don't see David Goxstein joining me in this, so I'm gonna go on. If you're there and you join me, we talk some crypto. I'm gonna pick up crypto at the end of this. I want to talk about Venezuela right now, for no apparent reason other than that it's fascinating to me what's happening with this whole thing, and with the obsessiveness over these drug boats. I don't. I mean, I don't understand I've said this before. I don't understand to some extent the Democrats' obsession with picking things that Trump or the Republicans do and choosing to like fall on the sword on them, like with immigrants. I get wanting to protect people here in this country who've been here a long time. I get not wanting to see communities broken to shreds. I've said this many times. I'm not a fan of taking this to the point of like anybody who's here illegally, we're getting rid of you. We don't care when you came, what you done, how good you've been. I'm not a fan. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's good for the economy. I don't think it's good for society. I don't think it's necessary, and I don't think it's appropriate treatment. That said, excuse me, the fighting against deporting criminals, the El Salvadoran, gang member, ex-gang member, domestic abuser. You don't get to be an ex-domestic abuser. He was a domestic abuser until suddenly she just decided, he'd gotten better who knows what they did to his wife to make her say that. Maybe they threatened her. Maybe she just realized it was her best bet. Who knows? But either way, he was clearly a serious domestic abuser. But they doubled down on him, Garcia down on him. Like, as U.S. senators flying to see him in prison, like it's in like El Salvador. Like, why? But the Venezuela one gets me even more. There's this massive moral outrage going on about blowing up these drug boats and how it's a war crime, and these poor sailors are stranded, and it's all focused on the second shot, right? The first they're upset the first shooting them at all. Then suddenly it became about this one boat, and there were a couple survivors, and somebody, they believe it's probably Brad, gave the command to strike it again. And of course, they went after Secretary Hegseth, that he gave the command. He said he didn't, but the admiral basically said, I did, and here's why. And the media's been obsessed, and Democrats like, these men were, it's against the rules of warfare, and they should have been picked up, not shot again. And why would you make your fight here? Let's just say you're right. Let's say the two guys on the boat were not trying to figure out how to keep going and deliver drugs, which I think they were. So they shot him. Really? You want to go to battle on this? These poor, helpless narco-terrorists were shot. I mean, they should at least get brought in and get a nice trial, right? Although technically, no. I mean, look, they're flying. You got to remember this. They're in international waters without a flag, right? They're not flying under any nation's flag. It's not like they have Venezuelan flags on them, so they're open targets. They're not the Venezuelan, government's boats. But why would you go to bat for them? Why would that be what you'd fight for? It makes zero sense to me. Like, of all the things, why would you fight for these narco-terrorists who are literally poisoning our country? I mean, the amount of death from things like fentanyl, the amount of destruction it's caused, the amount of lives it's ruined in our country. Why would you spend one fucking minute worrying about the guys, the narco-terrorists delivering it, whether they survived or didn't survive, whether we shot them and shoot them a second time? Why? Why would it be worth 1 ounce of your energy? Because get Trump on, something to get the Republicans on, and that's the problem. Like, and that's when the American people get really tired. I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of sympathy. Now, that said, like I said, the American public also wants certain issues resolved, and if they're not, they're going to do a midterm shift and vote in Democrats. And then we'll just have more with this stagnation we've had for decades. It just never seems to change. It just goes around and around. Give Trump credit. He busted through kind of like a bull in a china shop and got more done in some ways, but it's mostly by executive action. That's what Nancy Mace was saying. You kind of have to, you got to codify it. You got to pass bills. And right now, Congress, even with Republican majorities, can't seem to do it. So again, you know, why, back to Venezuela? Why would you focus on it? Why would you care? Well, I mean, and I get it. Well, but you know, it's justice. It's oh, suddenly it's justice, huh? I can think of a whole lot of areas where didn't seem there was a lot of focus on justice. Um, uh, uh, and again, I could look at illegal immigrants who have committed horrific acts here, and gotten put in and out of jail. Then you hear about the guy who then burned someone on a train or raped someone or does something, whatever. And again, I'm not saying this is all illegal immigrants. I'm just saying pick the numbers that are. There's a significant number. Well, why wouldn't you then be equally outraged at making sure they get treated, they get punished or they get resolved with through the legal system? It's just like it's not about that. It's at some level for either side. It's not. It's about just winning political points. And of all things, you're going to pick narco terrorists, bringing massive into the U.S. to fight your crusade of a couple guys who got an extra, and let's make a big deal. It's a war crime. If we could impeach Trump, let's get rid of Hegseth. Let's take the whole thing down. Why would you put your focus there? You're that disconnected from the rest of the country. That's where Mandami, for example, is not disconnected. He's in touch with what New Yorkers are feeling. He's like, I'm feeling your pain. And he is. And that's why he's the mayor. I will say this. It fascinated me that today they released footage of the Homeland Security and FBI agents and U.S. Coast Guard seizing a Venezuelan oil tanker, and it's coming down on the helicopters onto it and seizing it. It was moving oil from Venezuela to Iran, which is banned, prohibited, and so it's been doing it for a while. So we seized it. We are upping our antics against Venezuela. I don't know where it goes. Maduro's not planning on going anywhere, it seems. And we can call him a head of a drug cartel, not a legitimate head of state. He doesn't seem to be leaving. I don't think we're going to invade. He has a $50 million bounty on him. That's a big one of the biggest ones out there. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think probably the rest of the world, Russia, China, are confused our focus on Venezuela because it doesn't really, Venezuela doesn't really jeopardize U.S. interests, and we have an America First mantra that doesn't feel very America First to them or to certain Americans. It's sort of like, why the focus? But I do get the drugs thing. But again, Venezuela is, everyone can understand it, protect your backyard. And China and Beijing and Moscow aren't going to get involved, even though they have relations with Venezuela. They're not going to mess with, if we would conflict with Venezuela, they're going to start. But I do wonder, why, sometimes I wonder, why are we focused on it so much? Not just the drugs, but what's the obsession with Venezuela? I don't have an answer. I'm just tossing random questions out today. Okay, real quick before we end, interest rates cut a quarter. I think I would have liked to see a half. I think President Trump certainly would have. I think that's all we're going to see for a little while. The market's rallying. Bitcoin's staying around where it is. I wish David Goxton was on to talk Bitcoin. Maybe I can get him for Friday and talk what's happening with it. But it is, it's hovering in that 91 to 94 range-ish, around there. I expected more of a bounce on the market on the interest rate cut. We'll see if we get one tonight. But either way, I think, and I want to talk to Goxton about it. I want to get Landy on again. I think we are avoiding the lowest. I think we're avoiding the worst case scenario, which I'm not sure if that means we're in a bull market. We're sliding into one. I do think, if you remember when Landy came on my show like a week and a half ago, we talked about like the worst case scenario. I think we've avoided that low. So I don't think we can just see a lower low and a lower high. I do think we're going to see, well, temporarily we might see a slightly lower high, but I'm still banking on that we might break 100 well over 100 by Christmas. Who knows? I predicted 150 earlier in the year, but I think the first part of next year is going to be more positive than negative on it. And I think we've avoided the worst case scenario. I want David Gokhshtein and Landy and people like with me and to me, but I'm feeling pretty confident about it. I am surprised that there wasn't more of a rally up on the news of the expected the interest rate cut to be 1/4%. I do wish there was going to be another one, and I think for a minute there won't be, at least until Powell is gone. But we'll see what happens with all of that. Anyway, that's it for today. I don't have a whole lot more. I wish I'd had David Gokhshtein on. I'll be back on Friday. I'll be in Nashville, be a little more stationary. And I'm going to dive more into that. And then the last thing I'm just going to leave you guys with is Jennifer Welch, the Bravo TV star, fashion designer, said Erica Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk, should be kicked to the curb, that she's a despicable human being. Who says that? First of all, and she's a grifter. And I'm thinking, you're calling Erica Kirk a grifter. Erica Kirk, who literally made her pushed into the limelight because her husband got assassinated, and she has 2 kids, and you made your fame as a reality TV show. You're the ultimate grift. And but forget about that. That you just there's so little humanity to look at this woman, this grieving widow, fighting, standing in the place of her husband, didn't ask for it, didn't try for it, honoring it, struggling and her heartbroken every day, and you go and call her despicable and a grifter. And you're a reality TV star. I'm telling you, that toxicity, that's poison, that poison in the soul. We got to be careful. It's like that evil poison. It just seeps into you, and it'll change you from the inside out. And once it changes you, you've ruined yourself. So I'm gonna say, don't Jennifer Welch yourself. Don't Keith Olbermann yourself. That poison will kill you as well as Rob Nelson. Thanks for watching.
Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker, it's good to see you. Listen, you're a Bitcoin maximalist. You're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.
Hey, I don't have all the answers, but together,